Welcome to As the Key Turns. This is the pandemic quarantine edition. So, Zap asked a question, and his question was basically, did you ever have a bad boss? And I said, oh, yes, did I ever? So, I'll start out with some. Had a warden. Warden decided that training was just too much fun. Annual training for us is 40 hours of training every year, and they go over all the basics of prison, and anything that's been new they inform us of. Well, nobody ever pays any attention. We all just sit in the back, we smoke cigarettes, we drink coffee, we read things, we don't pay no attention. So the trainer decided that what he'd do is he would show a video that was bureau approved, and it was professionally made, and it was like a sitcom, and they presented the same training that we would normally get, or the same presentations. It was just presented in the form of a sitcom, and it was fairly interesting and kind of funny. Well, the warden seen this, and he got all livid and stuff, like he started sweating, and veins poked out all over his neck and stuff, and I thought, man, that old guy's going to have a heart attack or something. And then he got the trainer aside, and then he said it loud enough so the rest of us could hear it. If you ever do this stuff again, or even think about doing this stuff again, I'll have you out of your job, that kind of stuff. So he scared the poor guy. And so then after that, we just went back to the same boring training we always ever had, and we went back to not paying attention and smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee and reading things. So I guess that's what the warden wanted, because God knows you can't have any fun when you learn anything, especially in the Bureau of Prisons. So that was one of them. Another one was Captain Beezy. Captain Beezy had a wife and 2 kids. And at those days, we had a front checkpoint that wasn't manned with a human. It was manned with a camera, a microphone, and me in a tower, quarter of a mile away. So when people would pull up, they would push the little button on this post, and they would tell me who they are, and then I would open up the gate and let them in. Well, Mrs. Beezy can't do that because she's the captain's wife, and everybody knows that the captain's wife can't do that. So she would just pull up there and sit there, and I would just watch them, and then they would sit there and sit there and sit there, and then finally she would get out of the car for some reason and push the little button, or beat on it actually, and scream into it, "Can you see me?" And I would say, "I see your car." And then she'd say, "Why aren't you let me in?" And I'd say, "Because you didn't tell me who you are." And then she'd say, "Can you see me?" And then I'd say, "I could see your car." And we would play that game for a while. And then she'd finally send one of her kids over to the housing to call the captain, to have him call the lieutenant, to have him let me in, to have her let in. So we would play that game every day. So finally one day the captain calls me in, and he says, "Look, I got this wife, and you need to just let her in." And I said, "If she just push the button and tell me who she is, I'll let her in." Well, few days go by, and she comes in, and we play the same damn game that we always play. And so this time I had a lieutenant in there, so they called me in. Like, they had to relieve me from the tower and have me come in, and I had to go see the captain. Well, he was the acting captain, but he looked a lot like the other captain. He's a little short, fat, white guy with kind of balding short hair, and they all kind of look alike to me anyway, because I don't pay no attention to them. And we went in there, and then he says, "Look, you got to quit messing with Mrs. Beezy," and he went on and on and on. And I blew up finally. I just couldn't take it no more. I said, "Look, if a fat, stupid cow would goddamn poke her finger out the window and push the button and tell me who she is, she'd get in." And he's like, oh, you can't say that. And I said, "She's a fat, stupid cow." So that was kind of the end of that. Well, of course, everybody told the captain, "Hey, Layman over there says that your wife's a fat, stupid cow because she's a fat, stupid cow." And so he didn't like me after that. So at one time after that, he hands me this bag while we're searching stuff. And he says, "Here, hold this bag." And I'm carrying it around. He goes, now it's evidence. Hold on to it. So I'm carrying it around. Finally, I said, "Hey, what's in this bag?" And it's like, "It's a bomb." I'm carrying around a live bomb. Come on. So, yeah, that was one of the things that we did. And then, just to take it further, where it flipped. I got to be able to flip it. I was in the Army in Germany, Stuttgart as a matter of fact. I worked at the Provost Marshal's office, and I worked for the Provost Marshal, who was a Master Sergeant Orville C. Kerwood. The guy was a master at Army politics. Nobody that I've ever even heard of was a Provost Marshal as an enlisted person. So he was a master at Army politics to get where he was. And I could have probably learned a lot from him if he didn't despise me. Anyway, he would always pick at me about like everything because I didn't do anything right according to him, and I probably didn't. So one day he was angry at me, and he says, well, I had to go in this big long hallway, at the end of which shined like glass. And this is a building in Germany that the Americans took over from the Nazis back in the 40s when we conquered their country. So probably the first layers of wax was laid down by a Nazi. And it had been, all these 40 years later, we're still laying down more wax. So this stuff is thick, and it's really shiny, and it's just gorgeous. And he said, well, strip the floor and put a new layer of wax and buff it. I said, okay. And he did that because he wanted to be a pain in the butt, because stripping the floor, you got to put this chemical down, you mop it down, and it takes off a layer or two of wax, and then you put down new wax, and then you buff it out, and it looks a little prettier. And that's what had been going on this floor for like 40 years. So what I did was, I went and got a bunch of scouring powder, and I threw it all over the floor. Then I dumped a bunch of water on it. And then I ran the buffing machine over it until the bristles that were that long were worn away. They were gone. And all the wax was gone too, except for the edges. So then what I did was I got my friend, the armorer, to open up the armory and give me the big metal brush that we use to clean machine guns with. And I went around all the corners, and I got off every bit of the wax. It's gone, totally. No wax. So then I laid one coat of wax down, and I buffed it out, and it looked horrible. And I knew it would. So I got off work at 7 o'clock. I go back to my room across the little road there in the barracks, and I sit on my bunk. And my buddy says, hey, aren't you like going to go to bed or anything? And I said, no, watch. And then he's like, well, what's up with you? And I said, oh, you watch. Something's going to happen. Somebody's going to come knock on the door. And he goes, well, why would they do that? I said, just watch. As soon as I said that, somebody knocks on the door, and they knock on it like they're in a panic. It's like, it's not like, it's like, so I go to the door. And there's this guy there, and he's like almost incoherent. Oh my God! And he's holding his head. Oh my God! The master sergeant and the floor and oh my God! And I just said, calm down. What is it? And he goes, they want you across the street. Okay, all right. Because I know what it is. So I go across the street, and master sergeant reminds me of like the warden. Like all his veins are poking out, and his face is sweating, and he's talking almost in tongues. He can't speak English anymore. He's like you zip zap zip and stuff, and I'm like, what, Master Sergeant? And he goes, the floor. What'd you do to the floor? And I said, I did what you told me to do. I stripped all the wax off. And he goes, I didn't tell you to do that. God damn it! I told you to strip the floor. And I said, that's what I did. And he goes, I didn't tell you to take all the wax off. I said, oh, well, you should have been more clear, Master Sergeant. I just wanted to do the job as best I could. And that's when he went crazy and just started squealing at me and pointing his finger. And eventually, he turns to my supervisor and said that I was banned from cleaning the floor. So for the next 18 months in Germany, I wasn't allowed to clean the floor. And they made my supervisor do it, which made me really popular with my supervisor. So, yeah, I call that a win. Some people would have said maybe not, because my supervisor wasn't really happy with me after that, because he had to clean the floor. So, there you go. There's the 3 examples of poor supervisors that I had in the past, and I'm sure that everybody's got them. And so I'd like to hear your comments below about your experience with poor supervisors. And thanks for watching As the Key Turns. This video was made just for Zepp, who joined at the captain level. So if you would like a video just for you to answer your personal question, then join Patreon at the captain's level. Thanks for watching.